Ever seen steam shooting out from under the hood? That's your cooling system crying for help. And it's the fastest way to ruin an engine. In fact, studies show up to 50% of engine failures start with cooling system issues. I've seen it firsthand. One tiny leak, a bad cap, or the wrong coolant, and suddenly you're staring at a $3,000 repair. But here's the good news. With a few simple checks and shop-proven tricks, you can keep your system running strong for the life of your car. Stick around, especially for tips on 7, because it could save you the most money. And hit subscribe if you love saving thousands with real shop-tested advice. Tip number 1, use the right coolant. Last month, a Corolla came into my shop with the temp gauge dancing like crazy. The driver had been topping off with a universal mix from a random bottle, thinking all coolant was the same. Big mistake. The wrong type had started corroding the radiator and left the fluid looking murky with a nasty smell. When that happens, you're basically running your engine on rusty soup. Ever wondered why some engines overheat even when the level looks fine? It's usually because the protective additives are gone. Here's the fix. Always run the proper mixture, about half antifreeze and half distilled water, and follow the flush interval in your manual. If it looks like gunk, get a full flush service. Trust me, a cheap flush beats an engine rebuild any day. Keep your system clean, and your lifespan goes way up. But that's nothing compared to the chaos a bad thermostat can cause. Tip number 2, radiator cap, the 8-deal lifesaver. I had a Civic in the shop last week with steam pouring out from under the hood. The owner thought it needed a new engine, but the real culprit was just the radiator cap. That tiny 8-deal outer part had lost its seal, so the coolant boiled too soon. The system lost pressure, and the overflow reservoir looked like a volcano. Ever seen your temp gauge spike or spotted little cracks around the cap's gasket? That's the cap begging for replacement before it leaves you stranded. Here's the deal. The cap keeps the hose and cooling system at the right temperature by holding in the pressure. When it gets stuck or starts to fail, you get leaks, loss of fluid, and sudden overheating. Swap it out during regular maintenance. It's the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy. But wait until you hear what happens when the thermostat gives up. Tip number 3, check thermostat function. A few weeks back, a customer rolled into the shop with his truck overheating 1 minute, running cold the next. The culprit, a worn-out thermostat that was stuck half open. That little part controls how much coolant flows through your engine. And when it gets stuck either closed or open, your temp gauge goes wild and the heater blows lukewarm air in winter. Ever seen that happen? That's your warning sign. Here's the simple test. Pull the thermostat, drop it in boiling water and watch. If it doesn't move, it's failing. Good news. A replace job is a cheap fix compared to the damage of running too hot or too cold all the time. Do the check early. Save your engine's efficiency and dodge a huge problem. But even with a good thermostat, weak hoses can ruin your day. Let's talk about that next. Tip number 4, electric fans and relays. A couple weeks back, a customer rolled into my shop after his Civic kept overheating in traffic. Out on the highway, fine. But sitting still, the electric fan wasn't spinning at all, so the radiator lost airflow. The culprit was nothing dramatic, just a blown relay. I dropped in a $5 replacement, and the problem was gone in minutes. Ever popped the hood after a hot drive and noticed silence where a whir should be? That's your first red flag. Here's the trick. Let the car idle, and check if the fan kicks on as the temperature rises. If not, test the fuse, wires, or switch, and don't forget the sensor. Most times it's a cheap fix, not a dead motor. Stay on top of this, and you'll prevent nasty surprises. But even if your fans are working perfectly, a radiator packed with bugs and dirt is like trying to breathe through a straw, and that's where the next problem begins. Tip number 5, radiator and condenser cleaning. A customer once pulled into my shop with his SUV overheating on the highway. When I popped the hood, the radiator looked like a bug graveyard, smashed cooling fins, packed with dirt and debris, completely blocked. The airflow was gone, so the engine temperature kept climbing. Ever tried breathing through a clogged nose? Same deal for your system. The condenser, sitting right in front, was just as bad, full of gunk. Here's the easy fix. Grab a garden hose. Give the radiator and condenser a gentle wash, and avoid blasting high-pressure water that bends the fin. If it looks corroded inside, you may need a flush. Regular maintenance keeps airflow smooth and prevents costly breakdowns. Trust me, a quick rinse beats a tow truck bill. But airflow won't save you if your water pump quits, and that's the next thing you need to know. Tip number 6. Heater core flush. Last winter, a customer pulled into my shop complaining that the cabin was freezing even with the heater on full blast. The engine temperature was normal, but the heater core was completely clogged with rusty coolant. No flow means no heat. Ever turned on the heater and only got a weak puff of lukewarm air? That's your warning sign of a blockage. Here's the easy fix. Disconnect the hoses, run a garden hose through the core, and give it a good flush until clean water comes out. Most times, that restores circulation without a pricey replace job. It's cheap, simple maintenance, and it can prevent worse problems like leaks or poor system circulation. Trust me, your toes will thank you. But heating isn't the only hidden danger. Air pockets inside your cooling system can wreck everything if you don't burp them out. Tip number 7. Burping air pockets. I once had a Subaru in the shop that kept overheating right after a coolant flush. The owner swore everything was topped up, but the gauge kept spiking. The real problem? Air pockets trapped in the system. When bubbles block circulation, your engine runs hot and the heater blows cold. Ever filled your reservoir, closed the cap, and thought you were done? That's exactly how air gets trapped. Here's the simple method. After a refill, start the car, open the bleeder or squeeze the hoses until you see coolant flowing steady with no air. Some cars need a proper bleed, others just a bit of patient burping. It's easy, takes minutes, and will prevent huge headaches later. Keep your temperature steady and your system healthy. And speaking of healthy, the way you wrap up maintenance can make or break the whole cooling system. Why cooling system matters. Think of your cooling system as your engine's life support. Without coolant flowing through the radiator hoses and pump, the engine turns into a rolling oven. I've seen cars come in with steam blasting out like a tea kettle. One customer's Civic literally shut down on the highway because the thermostat stuck and the temperature shot up in seconds. Here's the deal. Heat kills engines faster than anything. A tiny leak or worn cap can snowball into a full-blown breakdown. Common myths and mistakes. Here's a myth I hear all the time. Universal coolant works in every car. False. I had a guy pour the wrong mix into his Accord and within months, the radiator looked like it was dipped in rust soup. Then there's the other classic, topping off with tap water. Bad move. It causes corrosion, scale, and can wreck your hoses and thermostat fast. Always stick with the coolant your manual calls for and use distilled water in the mix. Trust me, cutting corners here turns into a costly repair. Ever made one of these mistakes before? Red flags of trouble. Your car throws out little warnings before the big trouble hits. That glowing dashboard light isn't just decoration. It's your engine begging for help. Same with a heater blowing cold in the middle of winter. I once had a Jeep come in with no heat, and sure enough, the coolant was leaking out the hose. Another red flag, that weird sweet smell inside the cabin or a puddle of green fluid under the car. Ignore it, and you're gambling with an overheated engine and a fat repair bill. Ever spotted one of these signs on your ride? Preventive maintenance schedule. Engines don't just die overnight. They fail when drivers skip the boring stuff. A solid preventive maintenance schedule keeps your cooling system alive. I tell my customers do a flush every 2-3 years, inspect hoses with every oil change, and test the radiator cap once a year. Sounds simple, right? One guy with a Camry skipped his checklist, never touched the cap, and wound up with pressure loss that cooked his engine. A $10 test could have saved him thousands. So let me ask, are you following this routine? Final thoughts. Here's the bottom line. Your cooling system is the difference between a smooth-running engine and a cooked motor. Do these 7 checks. Watch for the red flags and stick to that simple maintenance schedule, and honestly, your cooling system will probably outlast the car itself. Don't wait until steam's pouring out on the highway. Prevention costs pennies compared to repair. And hey, if you want more real shop-tested tips that save you thousands, hit that subscribe button and check out my next video right here. Trust me, your wallet and your car will thank you.